I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need. In the off-white Rari, baby, we run the streets. I'm a K-I-N-G, Westside royalty. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, that's all you need. I'm a K-I-N-G, baby, I'm all you need.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. You're with your host, Stephen Bassito, on my podcast, Get It. We're on the Social Nostra Network. Make sure if you're watching this on Instagram, you follow us. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe, comment, share. We love the feedback, and I enjoy getting to engage with all of you guys and girls, and just, of course, appreciate you tuning in and watching another episode. Today, my guest is Tori, and she is a fitness coach. She helps with lifestyle and just helping people get healthy, get fit, achieve their goals. And I love being able to have on people who are in that world, because it is so important to being healthy for just the functionality of your life, to live longer, and all the things that go along with it, like just feeling better about yourself, which is a great confidence boost. So we're going to hear about her journey today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So yeah, as you mentioned, I am a fitness, and I kind of coined the term lifestyle coach as well, because I used to be geared towards fat loss and weight loss. That used to be kind of my area. And now I have switched over into more lifestyle design. That's sort of my pocket now. So we've sort of seen a big shift in the fitness industry, diet industry, nutrition, over the last 5 to 7 years. We've seen keto, intermittent fasting, various versions of low carb diets, South Beach, Atkins, Nutrisystem. You've got now meal delivery systems like Blue Apron and whatever, Healthy Choice, Healthy Meals, whatever those other ones are. So there's a lot of different avenues for health these days. And with that comes a lot of misinformation and confusion among the general population, who are simply trying to do the bullet points that they know how to write down on paper on how to live a healthy lifestyle. Eat vegetables and fruits, get protein at every meal, walk, 30 minutes a day or 10K steps a day. Like, they know what to do to live a healthy lifestyle, but there's this gap between knowing what to do and actually executing it. And so my job is to help bridge that gap, to help people actually sustain a healthy lifestyle that molds very well and gels very well with their lifestyle, because everyone's lifestyle is different. And even though we can say, oh, well, I have a job, I have hobbies, I have a family to tend to, like, yeah, you have the building blocks of what a typical life is, but every single person's dynamic is going to be different. If you have an injury, if you have a chronic illness, if you look after another family member, if you are a single mom versus someone who has two parents, it's a totally different dynamic. And so for people who need to know how to actually make a healthy lifestyle sustainable for their unique situation. And I've always fought the phrase, everyone's unique in their own ways. Like, it turns out we all actually are unique snowflakes in our own way. So I've actually been really turned around by my original thoughts on that. But that is my job now, is to help people find the easiest, most seamless ways that are simple. My coined philosophy is keep it simple. And that's just to make, it shouldn't be effort all the time. Like, you shouldn't be perpetually losing weight. You shouldn't be perpetually in this state of, oh, I'm still not happy with where I am. You should be absolutely happy with your body, with your nutrition, how you feel, and it should support your health in the way that you want it to.
All right. So we're going to get into some of that stuff in a second here, because that's very important and obviously part of why we're talking. But first and foremost, I am big on also hearing how we got to where we are, right? For each person, obviously for you, for yourself. And also, I think it's so critically important for women to understand, that they really do rule the world. And statistically, I think right now we're at 53% of the world is female, 47% is male. And that's continuing to slide up for female and slide down for male. So, but there's so many women, from people that I've spoken to, that women have a hard time with having confidence. especially in themselves, to be able to go out and just do their own thing. A lot of times, at least, again, this is from the women that I've engaged with, which is a lot of the time, they just feel comfortable doing the whole, like, oh, I'm going to go work for somebody else, that kind of thing, my wife included. I'm now finally able to start to help my wife walk in and doing some of her own things, and we'll do some of those things together. But understanding that, dude, she's, as all these women are, and I would say that I feel that most women in general are, you can go do your own thing. It's just a confidence thing. And so, understanding what you love, what, those kind of things, and then going and doing it and taking risks. I think that a lot of times that's the best thing you can actually do. Yes, it can be hard sometimes. I do also consulting for businesses, and I now have started my new consulting company with my wife, which is Hustle Method Consulting, and we help people with startups, scale ups, businesses that are failing. We have some big clients and stuff too, and it, for us, it goes back into just empowering people a lot of times to make decisions. A lot of times people are just so scared. It's like, look, the worst thing that's going to happen is you make a decision and it didn't pan out the way you wanted it to. You can make a new decision. You can go in a new direction. You can do things. And it's just really helping people. So, of course, wanting to have you on here and get to hear your story. And of course, hopefully that resonates with some females out there that want to be like, I can do this too. So please, let's just hear your story. Where'd you grow up? What were some things that you loved growing up? What did you study in school? And how did you know that this was the world you wanted to get into? And then, of course, going into some of your ups and downs in the journey and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Conifer, Colorado, which is a tiny mountain town. There was, when I was growing up at that time, one stoplight in the whole town, and it was really two direct buses at the high school. So I don't even think it really counts as a genuine stoplight. And really the only advice my parents would give me is in terms of safety and stuff was don't go to the mailbox at dusk or dawn, because that's when the mountain lions and the bears are out. And other than that, I lived a very unique childhood in that sense, where we lived in the mountains and we saw deer and herds of elk would, sleep in our yard and stuff. So I'm very, very happy for that childhood. With that, it was a very small town. So when I graduated high school, I was ready to get out of there and I wanted to go somewhere totally new. So I transferred to a school in North Carolina, or went to school for my first year of college in North Carolina, intending to study business. That's what had caught my interest in high school. And I did not love the East Coast. I missed the mountains. I missed being able to ski and hike. And those are just really core parts of my personality and just what I really is fulfilling to me in life. So I transferred to University of Utah to still get a taste of something new that wasn't Colorado, but still fulfill all of those needs that I was missing in North Carolina. And I absolutely loved it. The outdoor recreation is amazing. I camped all the time. I would ski after class. It was incredible. And by the time I was finished in Utah, I had actually, during that time, gotten my personal training certification. I was working at a gym, but I had also worked for an investment bank. I worked for a semiconductor facility. So my background is in analytics, which is essentially my degree. And when I graduated, I had been working as a personal trainer. I absolutely loved it. It was my favorite job I had ever had. And I worked in restaurant. I worked in a couple of other odd jobs, nannying, things like that. And personal training was definitely the one job that I never woke up hating to go to. And all of my other jobs, there was always that thought in the back of my mind, like, it's only temporary. Like, it's only temporary. I just got to wait it out. I just got to, make it to the finish line. And I don't like living that way. Always waiting for something to end. I don't think that's a good way to live. So when I graduated and I moved back home to Colorado, this was December of 2017, I was interviewing with a bunch of places, banks, primarily investment firms, and that was going to be my path. And I just felt like I was signing it all away. I was like, okay, this is going to be my life. I'm going to live in an apartment I can barely afford on like starting salary in Denver, which I don't really love living in the city. And I just felt like I was settling. So I was like, okay, I need to take a couple of back steps. And I went to work at the gym in the meantime to figure out what I was doing. So I went back to personal training because I already had expertise in that. I could sell. And I loved it. It was a great job. And I ended up just deciding to launch my own business. I was like, well, I'm in my early 20s. I don't have a mortgage. I don't have a family yet. I don't have really anything sitting on the table that would be at high risk if I tried to do this. So I had no excuse not to try. So I started my online personal training business, and it has been going ever since. I've helped close to 100 online personal training clients, in addition to my 1,000+ hours in-person training. So I've had lots of experience. It's a very different environment now. But looking back in retrospect, and I was thinking about this today actually, that I think everything really led up to this point, because a lot of things I enjoyed when I was younger really embody a lot of entrepreneurship traits, or at least self-employment traits. I was always finding ways to like generate income as a kid. So I would sell water balloons when I was camping for like 25 cents a water balloon, which is a great margin if you know the cost of water balloons. And the camping water is free. I would clean like campers whenever we'd go camping for like a few bucks. I'd always want to run like the cash register at my parents' garage sales. My favorite toy was like this Barbie cash register I had. And I just loved like creating things, and I would pretend to make products, and I loved transactions, which I think is why I thought I wanted to go into like finance and analytics and business. But really what I wanted was autonomy of my schedule, creative outlets. And that's what I've gotten by becoming an entrepreneur.
And so what has been one of the biggest hardships for becoming an entrepreneur for you?
So probably the hardest is actually myself, because when you are, and I'm sure a lot of people listening can identify with this, an overanalyzer, and all of the decisions boil down to your ultimate decision-making skills. And I'm someone who weighs all the options like 10 times over, and I will go down the consequence path of every single option and see, okay, if I make this decision, what will happen later on? And that actually has worked against me many times, just because it puts off. It's like a form of procrastination.
Right.
So, and the other side of it too, I think, is I am very harsh on myself, which I think a lot of women, especially high performing people can relate to, actually, is just constantly setting the bar higher, higher, higher. And you never actually get anything to completion because it's just never good enough. That is something I think that I struggle with being an entrepreneur, because it really all is up to me. And that is great in that it's all up to me, but it's also not great because it's like I really can overanalyze a lot of my decision making.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate.
Yeah, I could. And so I'm huge on a big part of what I do is personal development, right? Because you're only as strong as you are, right? You're only as smart as you are. If you don't continue to invest in knowledge and growth, then your ceiling is a certain spot. And I have a few different business mentors I've had over the years. I have a couple now. I always keep at least one or two. The one I have right now, he's a beast. He owns a company that makes, just stupid amounts of money. And and again, it's just it's how do you invest in yourself too. And so I have books that I'm always reading. I actually have a list of books of my next. So I'm currently reading 3 books.
Yeah. Me too. Which ones?
Time.
So I have a list as well.
Yeah, so right now I'm reading Alternate Ego by Todd. I'm reading Scale Up by
That's on my list.
The Scale Up book is really good. And I just finished the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone.
Also on my list.
It's really good. You should read that. Actually, that's probably one of the top 3.
Yeah.
But then, like, the books that I have on my list right now are Always Forward, Hacking Growth, Law of Success, Blue Ocean Strategy, Principles, Extreme Ownership, How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Go-Giver, and Anti-Fragile. So these are all books people have recommended to me that are also entrepreneurs and have been making, they work hard and all that. And I have a good group of friends that are all like me.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, what you want, right? You want to have a circle of people like you that are driven like you and help push you.
Mm-hmm.
All of these guys, for the most part, too, are also husbands and dads. Not all of them, but most of them. So there's also a synchronicity to our lives and understanding, like, look, we have families we love and we want to spend time with and we need to take care of, and we need to balance that to an extent with all of our ambitions and things we're trying to do. And I've also been blessed. I've made, with all the companies that I had before coronavirus, I had 3 companies that were all bringing in over 6 figures a year, which was great. And I worked really hard for that. Unfortunately, and I know I told you this earlier, I owned a gym business. Now I own a training business because the gym business is gone. We lost all of our gyms due to the shutdowns and all that.
Yeah.
So that's a huge change, and then how do you, going back to the quick decision making, we had to be very quick in decision making for so many things. When the lockdowns happened, it was supposed to be for 2 weeks. Well, you can survive 2 weeks, especially where we were at financially. But then another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks, another 2 weeks. We're paying all of our employees. We're paying rent. We're paying bills. That only lasts so long when you have no income coming in. And so, having to be very strategic and quick decision making. And so going back to what you said, there's going to be a place and time where decisions have to be made right away and you can't analyze anymore.
Yeah.
Which you're young, you're just starting, so it's very different. I'm unfortunately, I'm almost 40. You're like 25?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 15-year almost difference, right? And so in that 15 years, I've, in what I've done and how I've done it, so yes, I definitely had those hangups like you did. But as you grow your business and you change and develop, those things will change and develop too. And again, part of it is, like the 10X rule by Grant Cardone speaks to that. And it's funny, like I take notes for every book I read. I write down all the stuff that really like impacted me or things I need to change in my life. And decision making is something that he talks about throughout his book, where you need to be able to make quick decisions and execute. That's the difference between people that are rocking it and people that are never going to get to certain levels. And he's right, and so we do turn out to be our worst enemy a lot of times. And so I've struggled with that too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to circle back to your last question that you had asked me in the stream of questions was, how do you take a leap, basically? And when you were reading your books, I actually just finished reading The Big Leap. The book, I can't remember the author, doesn't come to mind right now, but The Big Leap. It's good. It's a good book. Not my favorite book, but it's a good first read. I think I've already done some work on it. It talks about kind of like getting out of your ego and stuff, such like that, to really give you the confidence and space really to make decisions that you're scared to make, but know you need to make, kind of thing.
Right.
And I think at the back of, actually, I know for sure I should have started this business long ago. And I think they always say, like, there's a famous quote, I forget who made it, but they said, if you started and you're not embarrassed by your first draft, you started too late. Have you ever heard that? If you're not embarrassed by your first draft, you started too late.
I don't heard that saying, but what I will say is I also don't agree with that perspective, because what it's saying to me, and again, it's going to be how I take it as opposed to how you take it, but what I'm hearing from that is, well, then if you can do certain things and you started too late in life. And I disagree with that. I think that when people finally have the courage to go do something for themselves, it was the right time for them. It was on their time, right? Not everybody's going to like be an entrepreneur in high school and bring that to college and stuff. It's just not
exactly.
And everybody does need their own different experiences. Like for me, listen, I was a hustler as a kid, right? I was out at freaking 9, 10 years old, mowing lawns, washing cars, walking dogs, delivering newspapers, like anything I could do to make money. But I also grew up low income. So if I didn't make money on my own, I wouldn't get in things either. But I didn't know how to manage that. I always went and got stuff I wanted, So I had an entrepreneur spirit when I was younger. But then I also, when I got to high school, started working. I worked for a construction company. I worked for Burger King. I was a nighttime janitor. I did security. I did all kinds of things. And then when I got through college, that's when I moved down to Southern California and started doing my own thing. But I was working for other companies while I had started. Yes, there's always going to be speed bumps and things that you do, but I think, you know, speaking from experience, it doesn't matter when you start, because you're already in having that mindset. Then you're giving yourself the, like, well, crap, I'm already so far behind. I've already started too late. I'm already at a deficit. Like, I can't make it where I want to make it then, because you're going into it with the wrong attitude. I think that to each their own, right? Listen, as an entrepreneur, I know you got to hustle, you got to grind, you got to put it in. Like, my wife loves this period in our life, the season in our life, which I've wrestled with. I've wrestled with the whole coronavirus stuff and how it's impacted my businesses, my life, and everything. Tara couldn't be happier because now she gets to see her husband every morning and every night. I take my daughter to school and pick her up every day. Like, my daughter loves this time because she gets to be with daddy. Our second daughter will be here in weeks, and I'll get to spend time with her. You know, and there's definitely blessings in this. And for me, it's been learning, okay, let's enjoy the blessing now. Let's, you know, we're not under any sort of, we've been blessed. We made a lot of good financial decisions. We're not under any financial burdens right now. You know, like, we're going to be okay financially. So I just need to slow it down now and enjoy the blessing of time with my family. And, you know, even to extend that, I'm also a victim of always having, not victim, I made my life very busy. I worked 16 to 20-hour days, typically 7 days a week. My phones, I have 2 iPhones and an iPad that I carry with me everywhere. Tons of apps, tons and tons and tons of apps. One of the best things I did for myself was when all this stuff happened and the dust settled and I got a chance to re-look at my life and figure out how to restructure it. I got rid of, like, I can't even tell you how many apps, like 30, 40 apps. My time.
I don't even have that many on my phone.
Don't ask. My time has been, it's been so much better for me personally, because now I'm not on my phones and my iPad. Like, you know how your devices keep track of how many hours a day you're on? And then every Sunday I get things saying how much my time's decreased. That first month after the things had finally settled, my time decreased by like 50%, 30%, like, I honestly, like every single week for 4 weeks saw my device time exponentially decrease. And it's because I got rid of all these apps I don't use anymore. You know, everything was for being, you know, I get wrapped up in time efficiency, but then also it's counterproductive because I get home and I'm on all these apps doing all this stuff. And I figured out how to streamline things in my life a little better too. But when you're in the thick of it, you don't always take time. For me personally, you know, the smart people that make billions of dollars, they do this on a regular basis, which I'm learning now. But I didn't do that at the time. My life, I just let get the best of me versus me taking control of my life. Well, now I'm in the boat where I've taken control of my life and I've restructured things. And so that's been really cool to experience. If I could go back to when I was 25, so where you're at, I would tell you, you know, my advice to you is this: be very time conscientious, be very well structured with your life. I hate, by the way, I'm a spontaneous person. I absolutely hate being structured the way I've had to be these last few years. But now, like, I mean, it was to the point where I literally had to structure my daddy-daughter dates and my dates with my wife, like our date nights. You know, like, I'd write it in an actual calendar, set reminders and all that stuff, or it wouldn't happen. Yeah. So time management is something that's so important, but smart time management. Don't take meetings for the sake of taking meetings. Don't see clients just for the sake of seeing a client. You know, like, really be intentional about everything you do, and there needs to be a reason behind it. That's something that I wish I would have done a better job of. But I'm still young. I'll be young till the day I die. So I will, you know, I'm figuring it out and I'm doing better now. And that's what it's about, right? And so for you, you know, in this journey that you're on, which is very exciting, we haven't even gotten to the big move that you made recently.
Not yet.
The blessing is that you definitely have a lot of that stuff that you can develop now so that it doesn't haunt you later. But getting into where you've moved to, you made a move very recently.
So I did. Yes. So part of why I'm so grateful to have my background in fitness and health and be able to literally be a chameleon and adjust to whatever my environment is. I recently moved, like within the last month, moved from Colorado to Spain, the south of Spain. I'm on the coast. I'm teaching English here 12 hours a week, and it's great because it's in a different time zone. So when I finish my day at the school, I come home and I can take care of my clients. They're all usually just waking up by the time I check out for the day. So the timing has been really great. And it really is, like, back to your point on pace of life, really, it's much, much slower here than what I'm used to, almost aggravatingly so, because when I try to get my, documentation appointments finished and try to be timely, and the buses are always late, and the lifestyle here is no pasa nada. And so it's very slow, which is honestly exactly what I needed, because my whole life I've been that person who is just go, go, go. I've always got to be doing something, feels guilty for sitting down and taking a breath. Feels like laziness is really toxic, even though we absolutely need rest. And so coming here has been probably the best thing for me, especially in a very hectic time. And it's been transformative already. I work in an area of the city that is not very high income, so it's really opened my eyes to a lot of what other people's living situations are in a completely different part of the world. There's a lot of immigrants here, and just it's been very eye-opening on multiple levels, culturally, linguistically. It's just been incredible so far. It's only been a month.
Yeah. I was a missionary when I was younger. I lived in Mexico in a couple of the, like, most poor areas, and growing up as a low income person, you don't realize how rich you are compared to so much of the world.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate getting to be born and live in America. I know we're kind of in a weird space right now. But one of the things I tell people is like this: look, like, at the end of the day, nothing's perfect. It doesn't matter where you live. There's no such thing as a perfect history or a perfect country. You're not going to agree with everything. But I have traveled over huge parts of the world now. And I just say, look, there's a reason why America is the number one most desired immigrated country. And it's not even close. Second isn't even close. And how many people we bring into this country. And my mom's an immigrant. My mom, she's Canadian, but she had to come here. She had to go through the process to become an American citizen, all that stuff. But my dad, he's a first generation American. So, like, my dad's first generation American. My mom is an immigrant. So I'm first generation American on my mom's side and second generation American on my dad's side. And getting to see how blessed we really are. And so people get, like, all upset and, I don't want, they make these remarks. I was like, dude, look, you don't have to agree with everything. That's the blessing of being here. Your voice can be heard, and you can actively do things to change things you don't like. But honestly, we are the most blessed, absolutely most blessed people to be in this country and be Americans.
Absolutely.
Again, look, you're always gonna have years that you don't like the president. You know what I'm saying? And people that you don't like that's in whatever, in Congress or in the Senate or representing your county, whatever it is.
Always.
But that shouldn't lead you to say, well, I'm not an American right now, or I hate this country. It's like, dude, like, you need to take some trips. Go to Africa and go to Sudan and Somalia and all these places that struggle. Like, honestly, go to China and see what it's really like there being, and go to North Korea, go to Mexico, go to Central America, go to South America, go see how poor and how bad people really have it. So you understand how blessed you are, and again, like, getting to have the experience you're having is such a blessing, especially at such a young age, because you are young and not disrespectful in that you're an adult. And you're young in your journey. I'm young in my journey. All right. I still, but to get to have that is such a blessing, and get to see the world in such a different way, because you do come home and appreciate things differently.
Yeah. Already, I actually was on the phone with my mom the other day, and we had just come back from a trip. We had a long weekend this past weekend. So we went for a trip to a different city up the coast, and we had to pass through this huge area. So where I'm at is like the gastro center of Europe. So all of the greenhouses that basically provide the majority of Europe's food supply are here. I mean, it's like hundreds of, like thousands of greenhouses. They're everywhere. And as we were taking the bus to this new city, we stopped at a stop and I look over and there's all of these like boxed structures that look like they're covered in black, like tarp or like hefty garbage bags. Like it's just this black reflective material and it's all strapped down and there's rocks put on top, presumably to keep it from blowing away.
Right.
These are people's homes. Like people live in these boxes that are no bigger than my bedroom here. I mean, they're so small. There's no carpet. It's literally dirt in their floor. Some of them have doors and some of them don't. And you look in and all you see is like a chair and like a cot. And it's these people, these immigrants who have come to work in the greenhouses. And but you look on their faces and they don't look upset. Like they actually look genuinely happy to be there. They're laughing with their friends and they're just there. And it blew my absolute mind because I was like,
it's mind-boggling. The
it's
people
mind-boggling.
that have the most like that have almost nothing are some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life. It's mind-boggling. It was
insane. And at the same time, it's very, very sad because you have no idea, like, will they ever know a life outside of that one? Like, will they ever know running water? You know, like my mom's family, it grew up in very rural Kentucky, and my grandma did not have running water until she was an adult. Like no indoor plumbing, like they cooked and grew and skinned their own food until she graduated high school.
Well, and to your point, still billions of people on this earth are never going to experience electricity.
I know. It's insane.
Like
so exactly. So when I see people complaining about some of the trivial things people complain about on social media, now I'm just like, and I knew, but I never saw, like with my own eyes, really saw, because I've traveled places. It's different traveling to Mexico and like driving through destitute cities to your resort. That's different when you are actually living somewhere and experiencing it day to day and working with children in schools that you know live like that when they go home. 100%. I mean, it shatters you into a million pieces and you have never been more humbled in your entire life. Like,
no, I fully agree. I think that's this good life experience that you're going to have. So I definitely understand, and you're definitely correct in that. So what's next in your journey here? So you're living in Spain right now. Do you know how long you're going to live there for? What is your next kind of move you want to make for yourself?
Yeah. So I'm lucky in that my business is online, so it goes where I go. So I'm very happy to have that as something that I'm still able to do and be anywhere in the world and do it. So I'm hoping to continue that. I am supposed to be here until June. That's when my teaching contract ends. That's when the schools get out for summer. Depending on the COVID situation, I would love to travel a little more. I've already traveled a bunch in Europe, but there's some countries that haven't hit yet. So travel permitting, I'd love to travel over the summer, come home for a little bit. My goal in coming here is to get fluent in Spanish. It's just been on my bucket list for my life, my whole life. So I've made an agreement, I cannot leave until I am fluent in the language. So I anticipate I will be here for at least another year.
Right.
But who knows? I'm trying not to make as many plans being young, because things always turn out a little differently than you plan, in a good way, I think.
All right, and then also, so we started off today talking a little bit more about health, fitness, nutrition, all that kind of stuff. So give me one thing nutritionally that's a misconception that people shouldn't do or should do, and then one thing from a training standpoint that people should or shouldn't do.
Oh gosh, there's just so many. Well, one of the big myths that I still hear kind of floating around is that you should not eat carbohydrates before bedtime, because if you don't use it, it will store as fat when you go to sleep. That is completely false. Completely false. The other thing is people people have heard that you have to eat breakfast in order to kickstart your metabolism for the morning, or on the flip side of that, which is genius from the diet industry's perspective, but also evil, they invented and they created this intermittent fasting, which tells you basically to skip breakfast. So you're like, well, which one do I believe? Intermittent fasting says I will lose weight and be able to maintain my weight if I skip breakfast, but this other methodology says I have to eat breakfast in order to kickstart my metabolism. Neither is inherently true. What works is what works best for your body, and that's really the answer to everything. So if you're wondering, oh, well, should I eat more of these potatoes or rice? Like, which carbohydrate is best? The answer is the one that works best for you. Oh, well, should I have a bigger breakfast and a smaller dinner, or a smaller breakfast and a bigger dinner? The answer is it's going to be what works best for you. So a lot of this is trial and error from the individual's perspective.
And how do you gauge that?
So I help people do that by running what I call experiments. So I will have a client, we'll all walk through what their lifestyle kind of looks like, give them a few recommendations, and I will ask them what they think they want to try first. And basically we go through process of elimination and then identify what has worked, what hasn't, what stuck, what didn't stick, and go from there. So we're kind of building a foundation. I don't believe in building a house on a foundation of quicksand. So I want to make sure that all of the basic skills like eating slowly, if you want to go on things that you should do, you should always eat very slowly. I think in America especially, we are very fast eaters because we have a lot to do, a lot to get done.
Right here.
Yep. Me too. I've had to...
I eat food fast. It's embarrassing how quick I eat.
Yes. Yep. From a weight management perspective, it's really important to eat slow. It's something I have to work on as well. So eating really slowly, I tell clients to test drive this by setting a timer for 15 minutes to start and see if they can make their meal last that. And it's really a humbling experience. Yeah. So that's step number one. Number two would be to really actually going in line with eating slowly, chewing your food completely. That just helps with digestion, and it also helps manage your pace of eating, hydration, making sure that my thing that I designed it's not rocket science by any means, but it's an easy way for myself and my clients to remember it, is like the puzzle piece plate method, which is something that I help clients use to make their plates. And all you need to include is protein, fat, carb, veggie. And if you can make that a healthy fat, if you can make that a complex carb, then bonus points for you. If you can't get in a veggie in that first plate, like say it's breakfast, not a lot of people like veggies at breakfast. So make sure that veggie gets put into another plate later in the day. And just that, making sure they hit all four of those puzzle pieces. I have a graphic on my Instagram that helps them structure their meals. So no matter what ingredients you have, wherever you are, you can fit those four pieces.
Okay, what's your Instagram?
Instagram is at The Fit Trials. Everything social media wise, you can find me at The Fit Trials, and everything is on my website as well, thefittrials.com.
We'll include your Instagram on here. And then what's your one training tip?
My one training tip, oh gosh, there's so many. Give me an area of training.
Oh, just anything.
Audience
is fast, so you have a little bit of anything. So give a generalized fitness training tip.
Okay, my tip is movement counts, period. Movement counts. So don't get caught up in cardio versus weights versus running versus sport versus whatever. For general fitness and just for a healthy moving body, movement counts. Always. So if it's the end of the day and you're I don't feel like doing anything, I don't want to go to the gym, do 5 minutes of dancing before you go to bed. Walk up and down your stairs 3 times before you go to movement counts, period.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. I always tell people, I wrote an article on ways to complement or to get fit if you can't, necessarily always go to the gym, and it's park your car as far away from the freaking store as you can safely. Women, obviously, there can be, you don't live in a great area, that's not always an option, but during the daytime it should be, right? And just all those things, but it all boils down to, you're right, movement counts. And it counts a lot. If you're gonna watch TV, get a
stretch
or something, do sit-ups.
My thing, my family makes fun of me so much for this, but I always sit on the floor when I watch TV because it's easier for me to just kind of move around. I'll stretch, I'll like go into a plank or something while I'm watching TV. Like it's very hard for me to just sit on a couch and like sink into the sofa. I like sitting on the floor, petting my dog, stretching a little bit. That can be active without you even really having to think about it.
I don't really watch much TV.
Me neither.
With my wife, we're just in bed and I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
But on a few occasions, not so much now, but when I was able to sit on the couch, dude, I'd sit on the couch, man. I'd knock out pretty quick. But after a long day, because of how much I had to pack in, and I was moving a lot. So it was, I don't really care about the movement part anymore, but that is true for the average person.
Yeah.
So important. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. It was great.
Yes.
And what would be the one piece of advice you would give to people who are trying to get started in the fitness industry?
My best advice for getting started in fitness is tackle nutrition first. That will be the biggest mover, and it will also probably take the longest time to really solidify change. So start with nutrition, start with the easiest things first, the lowest hanging fruit. I always tell clients, if you try to chase 3 chickens at the same time, how many chickens are you gonna catch? None. So always chase the slowest chicken, grab the lowest hanging fruit. Exercise is going to be the easiest part. So tackle your nutrition first, make sure that you are making the changes you need to make there, then go to exercise. Just do, if you're a beginner to fitness everything, like movement counts, and then just stick to body weight exercises, really simple ones before you work up going to the gym, etc.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much. And for all of our listeners, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Steven Basida. My podcast, Get It. My Instagram is ssbasida, which is BESEDA. Also, I'm on the Social Nostra Network. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, comment, share. If you have anything you want us to talk about, we always field questions and do podcasts with that stuff. Love having you. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.